Hello there, and welcome to the How to Market Your Horse Business podcast. I'm so glad you're joining me here today. As you have likely guessed by now, my name is Denise Alvarez. I get to host you here on the podcast each week. And before we dive into today's episode, I'm going to quickly introduce myself just in case we're new friends, and then we'll jump in. Now, as I said, my name is Denise, and through my business, Storm Lily Marketing, I get to help dream-chasing equine business owners like yourself to grow their business through clarity, with confidence, and with purpose. Now, I do that through business coaching and then education, such as this podcast, and I have some online learning resources for you also. All that I do, friends, is so that you, as a horse business owner, can be out doing what it is you love to do most, the reason you started your business in the first place, okay? And today we're doing that in a unique way. It's funny because as I looked at the title and got ready to record this episode, I thought, the previous episode was kind of a left turn for some people that are typically here listening. For my listeners, last week we talked about when you feel unsettled because the world feels heavy, personal or the world at large, things that you can do to stay grounded as a business owner. And typically, you're going to find practical, strategic, marketing, business-focused type topics here. But my heart truly is to help you in your business. And so we need to address the whole, okay? So I was laughing, though, because today's episode, as you know, because you are listening, the title is My Sales Workshop Didn't Sell. Here's what I think went wrong. And for me, that title is a little bit exposing. And I feel like last week's episode about how to deal with heaviness was a little bit different for me. And so we're just going 2026 all in. Let's be as honest and authentic as possible here. And I always have been, but I feel like these two episodes are really doing that for you here. Now, here's why I chose the title and why we're doing this today, okay? And why even we leaned into last week talking about things that are a little more personal in nature. Because I really believe that authenticity piece and that human piece is what builds trust. And here's what I mean by that. You've heard me possibly talk here on the podcast about a trust recession, meaning whereas around COVID and the pandemic time, people were buying online products and buying online experiences without thinking too heavily about it, right? There was a lot going on in that space, and there are plenty of reasons why, and I've talked about that. But now people are more discerning. And so they're calling it a trust recession, but to be honest with you, it truly is just more discernment around buying decisions. But that also means that as people like myself who are inviting you to buy programs and experiences that are often virtual, then we need to show up in a way that really shows you that we are trustworthy. Okay. And so I want to do that today by way of exposing a bit of I would say a bit of a wart, but really it's the humanness, right? Because part of being trustworthy is just showing up and saying, hey, you know what? Actually, it's not all rainbows and roses over here. I am a human. I do make mistakes and I keep learning. And that's the difference, right? Is when we keep learning and growing and then we evolve and we know that, right? But then that nature of everything has to look perfect still tends to show up. So let's talk today about the irony that my workshop that was titled Sell with Confidence, a strategic 2026 sales planning workshop for equine entrepreneurs actually didn't sell that well. Okay. Now, last month, I shared with you, last year at the end of 2025, I shared with you an episode that was a deep dive into a debrief, a 4-step debrief. And so I'm going to link to that in today's show notes for you. Okay. So if you go to stormlily.com/205 for episode 205, you can go listen to that episode because if you want to dive into debriefing a launch and what did and didn't work, that's what we do in that episode. This is a little bit different because it was a small, low-scale offer for me. It was not a major, quote-unquote, launch. It was $50 for 90 minutes to do a live working session where I guide you through planning out and mapping out your year. Now, I didn't approach it as a full-on launch, so I knew that going into that, sales would look different, okay? But as you'll hear in a moment, as I share with you the reasons why I believe it didn't sell well, is I actually quit trying to sell it in the middle of what you would consider a launch. So clearly that impacted it. So that's actually where we're going to start, okay? Now, let me tell you this, why I'm doing this, okay? I told you in the beginning, my heart is truly to help you in your business. So, yes, it's important to humanize. But frankly, you're not going to get much out of an episode that is just me sharing what didn't work or why I think it didn't sell if I'm not giving you practical ways to apply it to your business. Okay. So, that's what I'm here for. So, I'm going to share with you the reasons I believe that it didn't sell well. And then I want to share with you some actionable takeaways. And then you're also going to get 3 steps to plan your year based on that workshop because I want you to truly map out your sales. So whether you joined me there or not, I want you to get the nuts and bolts of that and do that in your business. Okay. Okay. So back to reason number 1, why the workshop didn't sell so well is because I stopped selling it. Okay. As I told you. And here's why and what happened. As I was writing my email series to my list to promote the workshop, so, if you've worked with me, or if you've listened to this podcast, or you've had your own launches, then when you are launching something and you have your email list, you're going to send multiple emails. You're going to invite them to manage their preferences, of course, but you're going to have an email series where you're telling stories and addressing objections and providing answers to common questions. And then you're also going to have podcast content and social media content, right? And as I was writing those emails and thinking about social media, internally, I could feel the tension around all of this. Okay. Now, here's why. I'm literally on the heels at the time of my launch of the Business Barn Collective. So in December, I opened up the Business Barn Collective, which is a curated small group coaching experience. And that was, quote unquote, a big launch, right? I had a 3-day reset to invite people in, and there was a whole launch process and series behind the Business Barn Collective because that is very aligned, and we'll talk about that in a bit, with my business and with my core offers, 100%. So a lot of time, energy, and resources went into that. I'm on the heels of that, and then I have this smaller offer that I'm trying to launch as well, but internally I'm just going, this doesn't feel right, right? I have just finished selling to my audience. I never go back to back and start selling right away. That just doesn't feel good to me. And I don't think my audience is going to want to hear from me this much to try to sell a new workshop when I just finished selling something. Then we also have the weather that's been happening here in the United States for the past few weeks at the time I'm recording this. Okay. The past few weeks has been weather heavy, winter heavy for a lot of my audience. And so they're sidetracked with that. And I'm saying, hey, let's, plan out your year. And they're saying, hey, I'm out here checking water and making sure, animals aren't falling on ice, that type of thing. So there's that. And I had all of that tension going on. So I stopped selling it. Okay. So clearly that's going to impact your sales, right? So when you think about your business, if you are not selling, that's going to impact your sales. Okay. So that's reason number 1. I know it didn't sell well because I made a conscious choice to stop. I did mention it in the newsletter. I think I made a couple of stories on my Instagram, but I wasn't doing large targeted emails and major social media content after I made that decision. The second reason I really believe it didn't sell well actually goes back to what I just told you, which is audience burnout. Okay. And I was fresh off the heels of that launch. And then I had the energy and I had the idea and I really believed that it was a product, which we'll talk about in a minute, that matters. But I actually also believe that my audience had just been hearing about this other thing and hearing me sell. And then I was going straight into selling again. And you've heard me talk on the podcast, and I'm sure you've listened to other marketing places and strategies who will talk about serving and selling. Okay. Or Gary Vee, I have not read the book, but I've heard many people talk about jab, 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 right hook, right? You don't want to just be right hooking all the time. You don't want to just be selling all the time. And that's what I was about to be doing. Okay. And so I do believe that even in that short time where I was talking about it a bit, that people were like, wait, didn't she just finish selling? Like, I'm not super here on that. Okay. And so I believe that was a part of it. And so for those of you that are listening that are email friends of mine, then here's me saying, hey, you know what? I'm sorry about that. I own it. And that's why I pressed pause, because it just didn't feel in alignment with me. And I talked about it here on the podcast some as well. So you guys did hear about it, but I did press pause on some of that promotion as well. And that is why. Now, if you're listening going, Denise, you're in marketing, you do this. Why did you even create this in the first place? Let me give you the bit of a background to that, okay? Number one, I created this particular sales planning workshop during my launch of the Business Barn Collective, actually. It was not my original intention for January, but as I was promoting the Business Barn Collective and thinking about what those people would need and what could be a great incentive to get more of the right people in the door, and how can I help them get a quick win inside of the Business Barn Collective, I had the idea of the sales planning workshop. But as I thought about it, I thought, yes, I could just include it in the Business Barn Collective, but this is something that whether people are in the collective or not could really benefit from. But I can't just do it as something free, right? Because from a strategic business standpoint, you can't just, it's not, it's not going to be an incentive for someone to join the collective, okay, if I just do it for free. So that's why I chose to make it a paid offer. I wanted it to be low enough price that it was accessible to more people that would be able to jump in and take action, which is the second reason I did that, because I believe that it matters. I know that it matters because I know the people that were on the sales workshop and planned out their year and have really maybe made some mindset shifts around that because they normally wouldn't plan out sales and they wouldn't have a sales rhythm to their business. I know that's going to make a difference for them and help them to make more money. And I want to help you do that. And so I really believe that it matters and I wanted to provide it. So to answer that question of, then why did you do it, Denise? You just had a launch and you knew your audience might be burned out. That's why, because I really believed it was something helpful and valuable. I wanted to use it as an incentive inside the Business Barn Collective because I wanted to give them a quick win also. So I had my reasons, okay? But still, once I got into it and started selling it, it didn't feel right, which is the third and final reason I want to share with you that I believe it didn't sell well, and that is the alignment piece. Now, alignment can be a bit of a complex word depending on how you're using it. So I mean it in a few different ways, okay? So because it can align a few different ways. So number one, did it align with my audience? Okay. I think that definitely I'm going to revisit the messaging and make sure, that I was using messaging that actually connects to the need that you guys have as equine business owners, 100%, to make sure the audience is really aligned to that. Number two was their offer alignment. The offer was a little different because typically from my business, you are going to experience coaching calls, okay, or a coaching session with me in some way, some one-on-one component. So if we're working in Take the Reins, which is my one-on-one coaching program, or we're working in the Business Barn Collective, which is group coaching, which still has some one-on-one touch points. And then I have a clarity coaching call offer where at any time on my website, you can book a 60-minute clarity coaching call. We get on Zoom and address the marketing business strategy that you need to address in the moment. And you get the recording and you get notes from that. And that's something that can be booked at any time. But each of those are coaching components, right? And one-on-one. So I know what's going on with you in your business. I can ask you targeted, specific questions. Whereas this particular offer was just everybody jump on and you don't really get to interact and engage with me individually. So it was just a little bit of a left turn for some people looking at the offers that I have. Now, in addition to that, of course, we could talk about price point and if the offer aligned with my other normal price points. And then there's the goal alignment. Did it align with my goals for my business for the year? Not necessarily, is where I had to land. I had to sit with that for a minute. And I want to encourage you to do the same with your offers and with your business and give yourself permission because the goals that you have for your business are going to change over time. Okay. And so it may be that an offer is aligned now, but it won't be in the future or vice versa. So I am not saying here that you're never going to hear me offer another sales planning workshop or other paid workshop, 100%. I'm just saying right now in this season, coming off of the heels of the Business Barn Collective launch and looking at my own cash projections and income projections and how I want to bring in revenue for the business and where my time, energy, and resources should go, I actually landed on, you know what, that wasn't 100% in alignment. And so that very well is one of the reasons that it didn't sell. Okay. So those are three things that I'm pulling out and doing just a reflection. So, like I said, it's not a full on launch debrief, but it's more taking time to stop and reflect and learn and then move forward. And so for you in your business, I want to encourage you to do that as well. Okay. Next time, I would definitely make sure I have more space between launches. Okay. I may repackage or reframe my offer differently. I may actually choose to test interest and invite people to tell me if they want to, if they'd be interested before I put it out there for everyone to buy. There are definitely some ideas and notes that I have for the future. Okay. But my goal here is for you to remember that even when things don't go as planned, which by the way, they often don't, you can still learn and you can make adjustments and changes and continue to evolve inside of your business. Okay. So, this is part one of this episode because I could not talk just about the sales workshop and recognize that so many of you did not get in there for it because I did have it. I did still host it and it was so good. And I wished more people could have been in there. And so, what I want to do now is to give you 3 specific things you can do now to help you strategically plan your sales rhythm for this year. Because 100% I still believe that sales planning matters, okay? That you can enjoy your busy season knowing that you have a strategy in place. And so I want to help you do that, okay? So I'm going to have these things in the show notes for you. If you go to stormlily.com/205 for episode 205, you will find these things listed out, but I want to go ahead and share them with you here. Okay. So grab your notepads, your notebook, notes app, whatever, make notes and then schedule time to actually do this in your business. Bonus points, send me an email or send me a direct message and let me know when you do it. Okay. All right. So number one, your first step is to look at your offers. I want you to map out your key offers and prioritize what is possible. All right. So before you look at your calendar, before you start plugging in when you're going to open and close cart or when you're going to promote this new product or that new product, I want you to look at the offers you have, the things that you plan to promote, and think of it from a profit perspective. Now, you may be going, Denise, what do I consider an offer? I have lots of services or, I don't have an open and close cart period. People can book with me anytime. Okay. I would encourage you to break out your services, even if it's into buckets, and to consider those your offers. Okay. So they may not be open and closed cart period. It may not be an online program that you have. You may have brick and mortar, whatever the case may be. You do have offers in your business, okay? So make some buckets if you need to, categorize them. But I want you to look at that so that you can see when you look at those offers, what's the most profitable for you in your business? Do you have that data and information? Because what often happens is we start selling and we assign things to the calendar. However, we haven't even determined if that's actually helping the bottom line revenue the most. And so you find yourself putting time, energy, and resources into something that's not giving you a true return on investment. Okay. Now, if you choose to do that because it's your heart project and that's a special thing that means something to you, go for it. Just do it with awareness. Okay. Rather than without knowing that it's actually not bringing profit to your horse business. Okay. So know your offers, identify the ones that are most profitable, identify the ones that light you up. Profit matters and doing what you love matters. Remember? Okay. So see if you can find that thread. Hopefully you have some offers that are the common thread that bring in the revenue and they light you up. Okay. Or bring in the most revenue. Ideally, all of them are bringing in revenue, right? And then think about the ones that are sustainable also. Okay, so look at those offers and pick the ones that are your priority when it comes to sales and promotions. Because remember, this is a sales planning session, mini session. So this is not just what's available at any time of year. This is what are the things that I'm going to intentionally sell during certain seasons or rhythms throughout the year versus reactively saying, oh, I have an opening. I need to just throw it out there. How much better would it be if you just knew and you had confidence that you have a process in place? Okay. All right. So, number one, looking at those offers. Number two, now you're going to look at blocking out on your calendar personal and professional commitments. Now, the reason this matters so much is because, again, my heart is to help you grow your equine business with clarity, confidence, and purpose. And your purpose is intertwined with your personal life. Whether you have kids or not, you have a personal life, okay? And so, what is on your calendar? Now, if you have kids, it may be that you need to write those things like spring break and holidays and put that out there on your calendar so you can plan around it. It may be that you personally are pursuing, writing and showing on a personal capacity, like it's not actually connected to your business. That's just something you're doing. Write down the dates and the places that you intend to be, the shows that you intend to be at. Okay. Think about the professional commitments that you have. Go ahead and mark those things on your calendar so that as we look at you creating promotional periods and seasons, it fits with the capacity that you're going to have at that time. Okay. Okay. The third step, the third thing I want you to do is to decide when you are going to actively promote each of your profitable offers or your most profitable offers. Okay. Now, not all promotions, as I just shared with you in my example, are full-blown launches, okay? There may be offers that you're saying, Denise, this is always available, but you can have an intentional promotional window, okay, that's maybe on a quarterly basis or maybe on a biannual basis that you are concerting your efforts, your marketing and your messaging to building that up. Okay. So for a simple example is I heard somebody talk about how they were taking inquiries all the time, anytime. Anybody wanted to come for a tour and talk about lessons, that was available anytime. But instead, they looked at their calendar and they looked at when they wanted to do their sales planning and they determined to have Tuesdays are intake days. And only on Tuesdays do I schedule appointments for new clients to come in. Or even for some of you, it may be you do a biannual open house. Maybe you have a spring open house and a fall open house. And that's when people can come in and see what you're doing and what you're about. And that's when you bring in the influx of new clients and customers. So there's not a wrong or right way to do it. There's just a strategic way that I want you to approach it versus being completely reactive. Okay. So when you look at your calendar, think about when would be the times in your year that you could intentionally be promoting those first steps to get people in the door. Okay. Now, that doesn't mean you're not sharing stories throughout the year. Doesn't mean you're never giving a call to action, inviting people to come in and become customers. It means you're being intentional and specific and strategic about having some concerted times that you are doing that. Okay. Because truly, as retailers will tell you, and people who have open and closed cart dates will tell you, when there's that concerted effort, there is a difference when it comes to conversions. Okay. And there's also a difference in your mindset as a marketer, as a business owner. You show up differently when you are already being intentional and strategic about selling. Okay. Okay, guys, those are the 3 simple steps that I want you to work through and apply. Block out time in your calendar to do this because here's the thing. You can listen to this podcast all day long. You can shake your head in agreement all day long, but until you actually take action, you will not experience the results. And I want you to experience the results in your equine business, okay? So take action with these things. Send me a message. Tell me that you did it. Feel free to share details. I love to cheer for you guys and celebrate with you. So feel free to share details and celebrate your progress. And then I have one more request, and that is to share this podcast with a friend. As you are listening, if you have even one equine business friend that comes to mind that you're thinking, oh, they should listen to this episode, please send it to them. I would love to be able to serve them and help them in their horse business as well. Okay. My heart and my hope is to help as many equine entrepreneurs as possible to grow your business with clarity, with confidence, and with purpose. Okay. Thank you so much for joining me here. I'm praying big blessings over you and your business. And stay tuned. I have a new friend to introduce you to soon. Next week, I have a new friend to bring to you next week. You are going to love her. You're going to learn from her. And I think that's it, friends. Have an awesome day. I'll see you back here soon.